He doesn't say a fucking word. He comes straight up and boom, hand up under my neck right here. He come with so much force, I actually come off my feet. He looks me dead in my eye. He says, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And I told him right there, I said, if you don't get the fuck off me, I'm gonna shoot you. It was $50,000 just to take the case. Like a stand-up woman, my wife, boom, threw 2 credit cards on the table, said run that one for 20 and that one for 10. My mom threw a credit card up there and she said run that one for the other 20. We paid him in full. When he got shot, 2 of the bullets went through and through. He's like, I don't understand why it's lining up. You're in a corner, you got nowhere to go, you didn't have a choice, you had to use self-defense. He says, well, you guys were in close contact, but you don't have any blood on you. There's no blood transfer. My lawyer said, he said, I think they're gonna offer you a plea deal. He said, I think they're gonna come to you and offer you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, my friend. Good to be here.
So, Wade, you have a very interesting story, obviously, and you were charged with murder.
Yep.
And did the government want you to rat on people, or they just didn't want to give you any type of deal, and they just wanted to try to hang you as best they could?
I think it was really they just wanted to hang me the best they could. And the catalyst to this was the lead detective on my case was a woman, and she was newly promoted. Now, I'm not disparaging women in any way. I think there's fine women in police work, but this one right here, I would not put into that category. Before that, she had never been in a case of this magnitude, and from what I understand from people in the department that I spoke to, it was more or less of a situation where she was trying to spin something into what it wasn't and create a narrative. And you know, cops oftentimes, as you well know, when they get tunnel vision, there's no breaking them out of it. And they did not want to bend on anything in any way.
Because she was probably more focused on getting a conviction and putting a feather in her hat, if you will, than anything else. Am I correct?
100%. 100%. That's what it all is, because that's what people don't understand. When you get in the crosshairs of the government or law enforcement or anything like that, you know, you're just a number to them on a case. You know, sometimes it is personal, but largely they don't care one way or the other. They don't care if you're guilty or what it's doing to you, your family, your loved ones. They just want that win, because you hear those numbers thrown out. 98% conviction rate, 99% conviction rate. What you have is a high rate of plea bargains, because people really have no choice, and some people can't afford good lawyers, so you have to take a plea bargain in order to kind of secure your freedom. Right.
And there's so many that do it.
100%.
Unfortunately, because the deck is stacked against them in a lot of ways, because in criminal cases, there's a lot of people who will be witnesses against them that they had done business with.
Yep.
So these rats are helping the prosecutors and the police enforcement officers and everything else, as you know.
Yep.
And in our genre, in your show, Criminal Entertainment.
Crime and Entertainment.
Crime and Entertainment. Yep. And you talk about this on your own show. And so you know, and I know that you've interviewed some of these, you know, people who have gone the other way, if you will, and you've spoken to them, and you've gotten the inside of their inside and why they did it and this and that. But I've seen some of your stuff, and they all have the same similar response and why they did it. But that's besides the point. Is that sometimes the deck is stacked against you. Hey, listen, you either can cooperate, or you could take, you know, a certain amount of time, or you can fight it. But if you take this certain amount of time, that's a lot of time, and you accept full responsibility for your wrongs without putting it on anyone else's shoulders, we'll give you 20 years.
Yep. That's right. That's how it happens. And speaking with a lot of these guys, you know, a lot of them, like you said, have very similar responses. Always, well, so-and-so did this, so I did that. But you have a select few in this genre who've stood tall and who's faced the music, so to speak. Some have went away, some have beat the case. You know, yourself, Joey Merlino out of Philly, another good friend of mine, Chris Colombo, who's the son of Joe Colombo, who a lot of people know. He was put on trial for a big, I don't know if it was racketeering, I know it was gambling. It involved high dollar amount gambling. And his whole trial, I mean, everybody, not one person flipped on the whole trial, and they beat it. And, you know,
you see what happens? When you don't open your fucking mouth, You got a shot of beating it.
Yep.
It's the rats that help these people. But go ahead about your story, because you were charged with murder, and you had to go the full route.
Yep.
You had to go the full route on that case.
100%.
And if you lost, you would have been doing life in prison.
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yep. 25 to life is what they were giving me, what I was charged with. Never got dropped. So the situation kind of unfolds like this, right? You know, I meet my wife in 2003. We were living in a town called Florence, South Carolina. And I'll speed the earlier part up a little bit. We meet, you know, we hit it off right off the bat. We're great friends. We party on the weekends, but we're parents and responsible during the week. We're doing everything the right way. Then I get an opportunity with my job to move to Charleston, South Carolina. I do that, and we're going good. Things are going good. She's got a job. I got a job. We have a son, a daughter. The daughter's going great. And I would say around 2015, where I had a car accident. We were coming back from Myrtle Beach, and I had a car accident where I fell asleep, basically. I was going to work early, done a little too much partying over the weekend, fell asleep, flipped the car like 8 times, landed upside down on another car. And it really messed my back up. Physically, I was okay. I actually crawled out of the car, but it messed my L4 and L5 up. And the reason why I bring that story up is it's crucial to later on with the event. So we fast forward a little bit, and the job that I had, I wound up losing my position within the company. I didn't lose the job, but I lost my position. The next one was making less money. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't with the people that I liked. And, you know, that starts to affect me a little bit. And when a man feels like he's not providing enough, you know, and he's a real man, that bothers him. He wants to be able to provide. And it was causing me to kind of drink a lot and just, you know, I wasn't really in my right mind. And then I had a friend of mine who unfortunately made the decision to unalive himself. And on the surface, Red, he had everything you would want. Wife, kids, you know, good job, Mercedes, Harley, golf cart, boat, everything you would have wanted.
Yeah, the bells and whistles and toys.
Yeah, if you'd have said, hey, I want to have all this at this age in life, boom, you'd have had his life. And then what wound up happening was there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. They were fighting a lot. And the parallels from their relationship to the one I was having with my wife, it was real similar. And so I was like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want that to be my answer. And so I chose to separate. I told my wife, I said, look, I think it's better we separate. We're not doing nothing but arguing. We don't want to raise the kids up on that. And she was against it. But it was my decision. And so we were going through the divorce process. I got an attorney. And the deal me and her made, I said, look, I'm not going to make the kids leave the house. You stay here. You stay in the house. I'm going to move out. If you decide to see somebody, I'm fine with it, but I don't want the guy coming over to my house watching ESPN on my TV or in my couch, you know what I'm saying? And we agreed. And we were very amicable through this, you know. I realized she was going to see people. She knew I was going to see people. We were in agreement. So nobody cheated. Nobody caught anybody doing anything wrong or nothing like that. So as we're traveling along here, we separated in 2017 around August. Now we fast forward a little bit, and she did meet somebody, and she told me she was seeing somebody, and I said, well, you know, if y'all going to get serious, are you going to move in with him? I'll come back to the house. And ultimately that's what we agreed to. So we did, you know, we're still on the road to divorce. And when it got around Christmas time, we hadn't really talked about how we were going to do the swapping back and forth with the kids. And you could kind of tell there was still a little something there. We're joking. I'm like, well, how's your love life going? And she's like, and I'm like, well, you're a hard damn woman to live with. You know, I'm breaking her balls a little bit.
Well, you get the Southern thing going on.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I get that.
Yeah. And so we're breaking each other's balls a little bit. But you could just tell there was still something there. And you fast forward a couple more months, we're starting to chat a little bit more. And we're like, you know, maybe we can salvage this. And so we talked a lot, because her and the guy at that point, they had kind of stopped talking. She realized that he had told her a lot of lies. He told her that he was still working for the government, for a government job, and which all that turned out to be a lie. She found out later. And what we agreed on was, we was like, look, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the divorce. We're going to get it all done. We're going to date. We're going to reset. Start from scratch, date a little bit. If we find out we can make this work, then maybe we'll go to the courthouse, get married for $50, and, you know, it's business as usual. If hey, we love each other, but we can't be together, then that's where we can go our separate ways, and there's nothing to bind us anymore. So that was our plan. Well, when we decided that was what we were going to do, I was like, look, I'm going to cut off all communication with any women that I'm talking to. You fully cut it off with that guy, and then I'll move you back in and we'll start this process. So the girl that I was seeing, when I called her and told her, she could have cared less. She threw deuces, said, I hope everything works out. If it don't, hit me up. So if only the other one would have went that smoother. So in this case,
you wish everything goes like that, just two deuces.
Yeah, two
any
deuces
situation, right? Yeah, when you want to be. Yeah, exactly.
But this one here didn't go smooth. He was upset, and in his mind, he thought there was more to the story than what was being told to him. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what she is telling him. I don't know what reason she's giving him to break this off. My only message to her was break it off. And I don't care how you do it. If either I'll do it for you or you can do it. So I know there's some communication going on with them, but I'm not hearing anything from her, right? And then about 11 o'clock, I get a phone call from my daughter. By this point in time, my daughter had gotten off work. She went home. When he had gotten upset, he had broke her phone. So that's why I wasn't able to get in contact with her.
Oh, he got violent with your daughter.
Well, he got violent with my wife at the time, who told him. My wife just didn't have a phone because he had broke her phone.
Oh, he broke her phone.
Yeah,
okay.
So when my daughter got home from work, she had her phone and my wife called me from it.
Got it.
And she was like, he got upset, he smashed my phone, and she said, he made me ride around to look for you, and he couldn't find you, but he went by your friend's house. Jamie is a good friend of mine that lives in the neighborhood about 8 streets down, and he said, he's over there at his house. Well, right after we talk, and I'm making sure, I'm like, well, everything's good, y'all are good, the kids are good, and she's like, yeah, he's gone, he's over there. Well, right after I hung up with her, Jamie calls me, and he tells me, he's like, hey man, Liam's gonna be over here. If you ride by, don't stop. I don't want any drama going on at the house. He's upset about something. So I got a good idea why he's upset, but you ain't got to worry about it. I'm not stopping by. So I go to my house, right? Now, keep in mind, we're in this one big community, but the community has like 8 different subdivisions. I live in one closer to the front. My wife lives in one like 2 back. So we're within 10 minutes from each other. Not side-by-side neighbors, but, we can get there fairly quickly.
In proximity.
Yeah, in proximity. So I'm in bed, I'm laying there, I'm watching UFC. It's probably 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I get a text message from the guy. And he's like, look, man, he said, I don't want no drama. I don't want no BS. He said, but I got some questions to ask you. He said, will you talk to me man to man? And I said, yeah, I'll talk to you man to man.
Yeah,
he even told me, he said, we can do it at your friend's house if you'll feel more comfortable that way. Right. Now, to add some context to this, I just had a back surgery stemming from the wreck that I talked to you about 2 or 3 days prior, where they go in and burn the nerve endings off my spine. I could move, but I wasn't very agile. I mean, it was sore.
Sure.
And that's something that when they do that, they burn the nerve endings from the spine and alleviate pain for a little while. They reattach, and then you have to go get it done again. But you're pretty sore afterwards. So when he tells me this, I said, yeah, sure. Now, look, I'm in South Carolina. I've owned shotguns since I was 18, handguns since I was 21. I've been licensed to carry a pistol since, I think, 5 years before that. So
beautiful.
I carry my gun.
Yeah, beautiful.
What's the old saying?
Second Amendment. Beautiful. I love it.
Always rather have it and not need it than need it and not have
exactly.
it. Exactly. So when I leave, I don't know what I'm going into. So yeah, I carry my gun for my protection. I get down there and, I would say maybe slightly aggressive, but what he wants to know is basically, has anything been going on that he's not privy to of what he's told her about? And I just told him quite frank. I said, look, man, I don't owe you an explanation for shit. I said, that's still my wife. But to answer your question, no, we just kind of decided we were going to put this back together. And I was like, I don't understand the issue of us wanting to keep our family together. I said, you got a family, you got an ex-wife, you got 2 kids. I said, we're going to keep our family together. That's really all there is to it. And when I said that, it was like, it just kind of drained out of it. What can you say to that?
You told him the truth.
Yeah, I told him the truth. And, you really couldn't say much back to it. And I know it's an odd situation. It's an odd conversation to have. But, I was in the situation I was in. And it wound up being 3 dudes in a garage just talking. And that went till probably about 3:30 in the morning. So now we get ready to leave. And Jamie tells him, hey, are you going to stay here? And he's like, nah, I'll just have him run me home. Meaning back to where my wife is. And so my buddy looked at me, he said, are you cool with that? And I said, yeah, I'm good with that. We've been in this garage for 2 hours, nothing hostile, nothing. We're actually laughing and joking about the situation. So we get in the car and he tells me,
Were
he
you
said,
guys
man.
drinking?
Yes. Yeah, we had 2 beers there. So we get in my car and he asked me to take him back down there. And he said, well, you know, if I go back to that house and she's up, he said, we're probably going to start fighting again. And I'm like, I lived with a woman for 15 years. I know how she is. So again, we're laughing about this situation. We're making light of it. And he said, look, man, I don't want to go home. He said, can we just go and hang out at your place for a bit? And I said, yeah, I'm fine with that. So I'm like 8 houses down from where we're at now. So I pull in the driveway and he starts telling me this story. And he's like, do you know why I wear this bracelet? And I'm like, I don't know anything about you, bro, other than your name. Like, I never really bothered to do a lot of research on you.
And that you sat for a few hours speaking with him.
Right.
And figured, hey, this guy is just, you know, probably is, you know, not that bad of a guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, and he even says that later on the night. He said, you know, different circumstances, you and I probably would have been friends. And I mean, I couldn't have knocked him for going after my wife. My wife's a very attractive woman. He'd have been an idiot not to. And he starts telling me this story, and he goes, you know, I was in the Army, my buddy got shot, the Army said I didn't do what I needed to do, and that's why I got disbarred, and that's why I got PTSD. And he starts to cry. Like, in my car, in my front seat, he's crying. Now, when you cry in front of another man, especially the situation we're in, like, to me, that's dropping your guard. You're laying all your vulnerability is out the window at that point.
Sure.
And so now I'm thinking, this guy just needs somebody to talk to. Yeah, he just needs a friendly face.
Yeah, he's got issues.
Yeah, he's getting the boot.
He's got issues.
He's dealing with this stuff, which he did. He had PTSD. Now, what we did find out after the fact was that wasn't how it went down. He was in the Army and he was intelligence. He gave this guy bad intel that led him into a situation where that guy got taken out.
He was executed.
And that's why he was disbarred and kicked out of the Army. I'm sure it still affected him. 100%. Sure it bothered him. But that was the story. He made it seem like he was with him in the combat action when he really wasn't with him in the thick of it.
Got it.
So after that point, man, my guard is down. We go in the house and we're talking his kids, my kids. We get on the subject of tattoos, and he's like, you know, Jack, my son's name is Jackson. He said, you know, Jackson's friend, his mom so-and-so was saying something about people with tattoos. He's like, she ever say anything to you? And I'm like, no, I'm covered with them. And I kind of bring it down. You can see the one on my chest here, but can you see this? Open heart surgery scar right here. So he sees that scar and he goes, damn, what happened there? And I said, I had open heart surgery in 2001. So he picks up my shirt from the bottom to see like the full scar, because it's the whole zipper. Now, when he does that, Red, there's no way he can't see the gun that's on my hip. No way you can't see it. It's going to stick out. He doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't say anything about it. He sees that. He lets my shirt back down, and that's when he tells me, he said, you know, different circumstances, you and I would have probably been pretty good friends. And I said, you know, you're probably right. And so he reaches over and grabs me and does one of those like bear hug type things, lifts me up and puts me back down. I thought it was a little odd, but then again, people do that when they're
I would have
drinking.
had a problem from the minute he touched my fucking shirt and brought it up and looked at my shit.
Yeah.
I would have had a problem then, but...
and that's a valid point. But, I mean, he did see that. I was showing him the scar, and, I mean, you know, maybe he did want to see the scar.
I mean, you don't even know this motherfucker.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
So when he does that bear hug thing, I think it's a little odd, but he immediately puts me down and he said, where's your bathroom at? And so I point to where the bathroom is. Now, at this point in time, I haven't texted my wife the whole time since I've been with this guy, which is at this point been about 4 or 5 hours. We're now getting at 6 o'clock in the morning. We've been out all night. And so I take out my phone, I text her, I was like, hey, just letting you know everything's all good. And so I'm standing in my kitchen, I got my back to the stove, and I hear him come out of the bathroom and walk down the hall. So when you come out down my hall and you turn into the kitchen, you're basically right there into the kitchen. The refrigerator, a little bit of counter space, curves back in. I'm standing right there by the stove, goes over, curves back this way, you got the sink. So it's all kind of, it's tight quarters. He doesn't say a fucking word. He comes straight up and boom, hand up under my neck right here. Like, he come with so much force that I actually come off my feet a little bit and my ass slid onto the stove. And he's just like pushing me back. He's not really choking me, but he's like forcing me back. And I mean, just completely off guard, didn't say a word when he's doing this. So I managed to get back down. I get my feet on the ground and I looked at him. I said, what the fuck are you doing? And he looks me dead in my eye, and I've never seen eyes like this. I didn't know gray was an eye color, but apparently 2% of the population has it. I found that out.
Say that again?
Gray is 2% of the population has gray eye color. I didn't know gray could be an eye color. But when I looked at this dude's eyes,
I might have been there a few times myself, but that's besides the point.
Well, I seen the look. is what I'm saying. I see his eyes. I'd never seen nobody's eyes look like that. And he looks at me and he says, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I told him right there, I said, if you don't get the fuck off me, I'm going to shoot you. And he's holding up right this. Because again, like I said, the back issue, I can't fight this guy.
Yeah, of course.
I can't physically go at him.
And plus, you know, you had a heart issue.
Yep.
I mean.
So when he's holding me like this, I can see him rearing back. He's already cocked. He's coming. And when it gets close, I kind of lift my chin up and he, skims the bottom of my chin. He doesn't hit it flush. He just kind of skims it. And so when his hand goes over, he lets go. And I knew that was going to be my only opportunity to do anything. And I took out my gun and I fired. And I fired 3 shots. They all hit center mass, which is right where you're trained to shoot. Everybody always says that dumb shit, like you could have shot him in the leg. That's not where you're taught to shoot. You're more than likely going to hit if you're aiming at the leg. It's harder to hit that. That's why the silhouette in the frame is the body.
I might have hit him in the head, but that's besides the point.
Well, I mean, the head's an option too. The head's on that silhouette too.
I'm just saying.
But that is where you're trained to shoot, though. When you do your CWP course and you get that license, you got to hit like the center mass
Sure,
area.
I know that. Yep.
And that's where they train you to shoot, and that's where I shot. And so immediately when he hits the ground, I'm not thinking I did anything wrong. I'm not thinking I'm about to be in trouble. I'm not thinking this is going to turn my life upside down. I'm thinking I was in my house. I was attacked. I gave a warning, which I didn't have to fucking do. And I used my weapon, and we have castle doctrine and self-defense laws in South Carolina. I'm thinking I'm good. But now I'm like, all right, well, let me try to get the guy some help. So I immediately called 911. When I call 911, you can still hear him in the background. He's doing what's referred to as the death rattle. You can hear it moaning. And I do everything they tell me to do. The law finally gets there. They tell me to go out with my hands up. I do that. They put me in the car. And first, you're not under arrest. We're just holding you until we can assess the scene.
Yeah, they're going to assess it, investigate, see what's going on. Yep, I get it. And so, that's your job.
Yep, and I
respect that.
Yeah, I understood it to that point. So, but now, like I said, it's daylight. Now it's 6:30-ish a.m., 7 o'clock. People are starting to stir around in the neighborhood, and this is a neighborhood that's not used to this kind of activity. Now you got ambulances, cop cars, SUVs lining the fucking street. Everybody's peeking out their windows, riding by on golf carts, riding by on cars. They're seeing me in the back of the car, wondering what the hell's going on, because they all knew I lived by myself at that point. And then a woman cop comes over and she reads me my rights. And she's like, you're being arrested, and asked me if I want to answer any questions. I said, no, not without a lawyer. Now, granted, I'm not going to say I'm from the streets, but I know people from the streets. I've been around the streets. I knew not to talk to the cops, especially in this situation.
Thank God.
Without a lawyer present.
Thank God.
Yeah. So off top, I wasn't doing that at all.
Oh, you would have been fucking yourself hard.
Yep. And that's what I tell people. I said, cops don't ask questions.
Because they would have twisted, turned any fucking thing that you had to say. I can guarantee you that, brother.
That's what they do, man. They don't ask questions. They plant landmines.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. So, but by this time, my wife has came. I see everybody out, but I'm in the back of the car. I'm in this car like 2 hours. And the ambulance has done come, picked the guy up, and left. I'm still there. And I'm like, what the fuck is they doing? And then finally, I had to use the bathroom. So I motioned for one of the cops. I'm like, hey, I got to use the bathroom. He's like, you're going to have to hold it. And I'm like, I ain't holding nothing. I was like, I'm going to either go in this car, or you can let me in that house, or we can go in the yard, but I got to go. So they let me in the house, and I change up all my clothes, and you give them everything I had on except for my underwear, basically. They took my pants, my shirt, my shoes.
Well, they want to do forensics with the gunpowder and all that, and everything off the clothing and all that, and fingerprint, everything, DNA.
Yep, whole nine
yards.
So, and again, I understood why they wanted all that. So I'm thinking I'm going back to the cop car. And they go, is there anywhere you can go while we finish our investigation? And I'm like, well, yeah. I can go around the corner to my buddy's house. I see him sitting out there on a golf cart trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And he's like, yeah, if you can do that, we'll be over in a minute, let you know when you can come back home. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, you're not arrested. Now you're arrested. Now can you go somewhere and chill till we get done? So what I'm thinking is maybe...
obviously somebody's made a mistake.
Right. Or they're understanding what's going on. They've talked to somebody. Maybe they've talked to my wife. She's kind of made them understood the situation. They're starting to piece it together. So I'm thinking they're grabbing some tidbits from somebody that this is starting to make sense. So I'm thinking that's a good thing. And so I go to my friend's house. About an hour later, the cop comes over there and he says, well, when can you come and answer some questions? I said, look, I'm not coming without a lawyer. And he said, who's your lawyer? Well, I had a divorce attorney at the time, and I told him his name. He said, well, we know Donnie. He said, he used to be one of us. He used to be a cop. He's an attorney now. He said, I'll get with him and we'll set up something for you to come in. I said, okay. I said, so I can go back home? And he said, yeah, you can go back. And I said, was there any mess or anything I got to clean up? He said, buddy, that's on you. We don't do that. And drove off. Now, that's true. The cops don't have any sort of liability to clean up any mess after a crime scene. If you either do it yourself or you call in professional crime cleaners.
So when they come in and obviously he's laying dead, and they took him out of there, did they take samples of and stuff like that before you cleaned everything up?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they did, because they told us when I was free to go back in, they said the house was done and they've done everything they needed to do. So technically, he wasn't dead there. He died at the hospital.
Got it.
He was technically alive. I don't know if it was just a formality, but he was alive when he went out of the house and got into the ambulance, and technically they pronounced him dead at the hospital. But my mom had heard about the situation. She had went down there. By the time I got back from my friend's house to go to my house, which is again right around the corner, she'd already went in there and she said she cleaned up everything. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And she said, well, it really wasn't none. She said there was just a little bit of blood, on the floor. She said, I cleaned it up with like 2 paper towels.
Oh, wow.
So that was it. Again, everything center mass.
What caliber gun?
It was a 9mm.
9mm?
Smith & Wesson 9mm. And it wasn't hollow point rounds or anything like that. It was actually, I'd been to the range, a while before that. It was like regular full metal jacket rounds. So it wasn't even like the high powered ammunition. So I'm thinking in my head like everything's good, right? I call my lawyer. I tell him what's going on. He's like, yeah, meet me tomorrow. We'll go through a statement. So I've never been through anything like this in my life now. I've only had a speeding ticket.
Sure.
I go to the lawyer's office and he's like, tell me what happened. I explain it to him like I'm doing to you. He goes, well, it sounds like you're a good shoot or a clean shoot. He's like, you're going to give me your statement. I'm going to give it to the cops. If they got anything they want to ask, he said, I'll call you. I said, so we don't go to the police station? He said, no. He said, we don't go to the police station. He said, they give me their questions. I give them their answers. That's how we do it. I'm like, all right, well, I trust you. Sounds good to me. So I give him the statement. He calls me like an hour later and he said, everything they want to know, you answered in your statement. If I need you again, I'll call you. I'm like, all right, this is now Monday. Tuesday, I get a call from him around 3:30 in the afternoon. He said, I got some bad news. Now, that's not something you ever want to hear come out of your lawyer's mouth when he gives you a call, especially when you got this going on. And he said, they're going to charge you with murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime. You got to turn yourself in tomorrow, Hill Finkley Detention Center at 12 o'clock. And I'm just, when he said that, Bo, it was like my heart dropped. I was like, why? I was like, what do they think they have? And he said, bro, I don't know. And he said, I'm taking it, you're telling me the truth. He said, I don't know if they're just trying to paint this thing as like a lover's triangle thing and you killed him to get your wife back. And I said, but we were getting back together anyway. What do I need to kill the fucking guy for? And he's like, look, I'm just telling you what they said. You got to be there tomorrow at 12. So at this point, I'm panicking. And I was like, all right, I'll call you back. So I call everybody I know and I'm asking, who's the guy that I need? There's always that one guy that you need. And I got back the same name.
The specialist.
The top guy. And the top guy in my area in Charleston, South Carolina is a gentleman by the name of Andy Savage. And that name fit him to a fucking T, brother.
He was a savage.
He was a savage. And I call, I get an appointment the next morning. My wife, my mom, they drive me over there because I'm supposed to be in jail at 12 o'clock. He agreed to meet me at 7 a.m. So I give him all the info and he looks at me and he goes, why are we here? And I said, well, you told me to be here at 7 o'clock. And he said, no, I mean, why are we here? He said, if your story's the truth. And he said, my guys, my team, my investigators will rip this apart. And he said, if you're lying to me about anything, I'll know. And we'll have another conversation. He said, but if you're telling me the truth, there's no reason we should be here. And I said, well, I'm telling you the truth. I said, I promise you, everything that I'm saying can be backed by science. Like everything I said went down just the way it did. And so he makes a phone call. I don't know who he called. To this day, I don't know who he called. He got my surrender pushed back from Wednesday to Friday. And he said, I'll probably get it pushed back to Sunday, but I just needed that to get a little bit more time. So now he's getting all this information. You know, my wife's telling him stuff. I'm telling him stuff. They're printing stuff out. It's like something off of a movie.
He had to call one of the prosecutors.
Yeah, I don't know who he called.
No doubt about it.
He called somebody.
Because they'd be the ones in charge of that.
Okay.
And they're all lawyers anyway.
They're all
in bed together. You know.
They play golf together or whatever, drink brandy, smoke cigars.
Exactly.
So as we're telling them all this stuff, they're printing stuff out. They're printing stuff out on a guy. They're printing stuff out on me. Like, it was just amazing to see all this stuff work. And so now we get to talk about payment, right? He's like, all right, I got it pushed back to Friday. He was like, you know, how we want to handle the payment situation. So he told me what it was. It was $50,000 just to take the case, just to take it. Like a stand-up woman, my wife, boom, threw 2 credit cards on the table, said run that one for 20 and that one for 10. My mom threw her credit card up there and she said run that one for the other 20. We paid him in full, right off the rip. And like, to me, that was just stand up on both of their parts to help me out in that situation. And sure. They did it. And
God bless them.
Yeah, 100%. I tell anybody, like, my wife's my ride or die to this day. I don't care what happens to us. And we do that. He does wind up getting pushed back to Sunday. So it was a very odd situation. Like, I literally had to self-surrender and go turn myself into jail. We had the family come down Saturday night. I don't want to call it a party. It wasn't a party, but you know, you don't know if you're getting out.
Yeah, right.
I'm going in there for bond. So They don't always give bond for murder.
Right.
I could be in there a year, who knows? So it was a gathering, definitely that, but it just had a tense tone to it, you know. And then Sunday, I literally go and get dropped off at the jail. And mind you, like I said, I've never been in trouble, never been locked up, and I'm going in there with a murder charge. And these people know. They know in the county jails. They got TVs in there. They can tell what's going on. Somebody knew who I was as soon as I walked in there. And luckily in my case, to be seen for that kind of case, you got to be seen by the circuit court. And that rotates county to county in your area. It happened to be in my county that week. So I caught a break. Otherwise, I'd have had to sit in there all the way until it rolled back around. So we caught a break with that. The next day we go in, and listen, all I knew about court cases and bond hearings was they either say bond granted or bond denied. So we get up there, and the state's trying to give them every reason, and I'm just cold-blooded, calculated killer, and I planned all this out, and I'm this horrible person. And my lawyer's saying, look, he's married, he's been, you know, got a family, he's been at the same job for 15 years.
Never been in trouble.
Never been in trouble, pillar of his community, yada, yada, yada. And they're going back and forth, and the judge goes, okay, said, I'll make my decision and let you know. And she hits the gavel. Now, they're already dragging me out. I'm handcuffed wrist to wrist, down to ankle, and I look at my lawyer, I said, what the hell does that mean? He said, I guess that means she'll let us know. And like, they're dragging me back. So I asked the bailiff, I said, so what does that mean? Like, let me know. He said, you'll probably have an answer about a week or so.
She took it under advisement.
Yeah.
That's what they usually do.
Yep. And
it takes time.
And again, I didn't know all
They want to
that.
go through everything thoroughly before they make their educated decision, if you will.
Yeah.
Whether we agree with it, we don't agree with it, that's what they do.
And see, I never knew all that kind of stuff because I wasn't, you know, I had never been through anything like that. That's what she did. I found out hours later that they did grant me bond. I was just going to have to stay in there another night. So that night I wound up getting transferred to a pod, which was an interesting thing. They give you your jumpsuit, and you get put in there with all the other inmates. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, Red, it's nowhere I want to go for a long time by any stretch of the imagination. But the things and stuff that I heard in there, it was not what I expected. You had guys in there that were telling people, like, you got to get your shit together. You got to get out and do the right thing. You got a future ahead of you. You can do landscaping. You can do this. Like, they were trying to build each other up. Now, maybe I was in there on a good night. I don't know. I'm sure they have their off nights. But it was really an experience that I tell everybody they need to go to jail one time. Not only do you go in there, you see what it's like, you appreciate your freedom, but it's just an experience that you can't really grasp unless you've been there. And so I'm laying up and I'm looking at the ceiling this night, and I'm just thinking, you know, how did I get here? I didn't do anything wrong. I done it right by the letter of the law. You're able to use up and deadly force, especially in your own house. That's the Castle Doctrine, and I'm still here. And so I get out the next day. I go to my job fires me. Been there 15 years. They fire me because of the charges. Not guilty, still going to trial. They fired me. The only benefit in them firing me, Rib, was I had a pretty substantial 401k at the time, about $150,000. So now that they fired me, I can take that out. I took that out. I paid my mom back. I paid my wife back. I didn't want their financial burdens. Made sure they were good. And then paid a few other things off, because now I don't know how I'm going to find a job. People aren't dying to hire people with murder, cases on their background record, and that was difficult. Went to a job to try to I told him everything up front. I said, hey, this is what I got going on. He said, man, I think we're good. He's like, I took some criminal classes in high school or college. He said, I think we're good. When it run through corporate, they flagged it, they pulled the offer. So I know right now I can't go to any big companies because they're going to see this offer. So this was a stressful time period, man. This was 2018. I luckily did wind up finding a job with a sign company, but now I'm making half of what I used to make, if that, probably less. I'm making $100,000+ a year at the steel company. I've always been in the steel industry, blue collar guy. Now I'm making like 45. And then I got lawyer bills. That was just for that dude to take the case. Now he's interviewing people, gathering, evidence. He's flying in forensics people from New York. That's money. Every time they do all that, that's money. They send you the bill.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the forensics guy come down, and this was the key thing that he knew that I was telling him the truth. We had an investigator who was about the same height as the gentleman. They put a shirt on this guy that had an exit wound of one of the bullets on the shirt, so they knew where the exit wound was. When he got shot, 2 of the bullets went through and through. One hit a 24-pack of water that was sitting beside the refrigerator. One hit the refrigerator door and ricocheted and hit a wall. They put the laser from the wall back to the refrigerator, then from the refrigerator back over to where we were standing. And the way we were situated, he couldn't really line up, and he couldn't understand it. He's like, I don't understand why it's lining up. I said, well, the guy wasn't just standing straight up. I said, once he, hit me and kind of stumbled over, I said, he was already coming back at me. I said, so have him kind of crouch down a little bit. And when he did that, the dot went right on the mark on that shirt, and my lawyer said, he said, that's what I need. He said, that proves he's coming at you. You're in a corner. You got nowhere to go. You didn't have a choice. You had to use self-defense. He's like, that's it. We're good. I'm not worried about anything else. And so I'm thinking, all right, good. We're fixing to go to trial and get this thing underway. Well, then COVID happens. COVID just pretty much brought the court system to a dead stop. Nobody's getting seen in court. Everything's on Skype and Zoom, and my lawyer don't work on Skype and Zoom. He said, I don't work on a computer. I work in a courtroom. He said, if you're good to keep rolling, let's keep rolling. Because not so much in my situation, because I didn't really have to lie, but in other cases, like the longer it goes, the better. Evidence gets lost, people move away, people die.
Other cases come up, and you don't become prevalent like those other cases.
100%.
And you're put in the back burner, as they say.
Yep, and that's kind of what happened with this, because of COVID, and we're rolling along, and I'm on house arrest this whole time, right? I can't leave the house. I can only leave for lawyers' visits, doctor, work, and eventually they did extend it to my son's sporting events. He started playing football, so I could go to that. I eventually wound up being a coach because I'm there all the time, and I was allowed to do that. And so that's really all I can do. And so I get an idea to start a podcast because I'm a talkative dude, man. I like to talk. I like to conversate with people. And I was going crazy sitting in the house, all this time. And I'm coming up with every creative way I can to have conversations and leave. So I started a podcast, and we mentioned it earlier, Crime and Entertainment, and start making some connections with people, and it starts to grow a little bit, and I get an opportunity to go to New York. And so I called my lawyer. I said, look, this is a job. I'm getting paid off of it. Can I go to New York? They let me go. They're charging me with murder, and they let me fly from South Carolina to New York, no questions asked. I don't know anybody can see that far. They don't know what the hell I'm doing up there. How much could they really be threatened by me, While all this is going on, I signed up to work for a company. It was kind of like Uber, but for regular stuff, right? So just say you're at your house and you don't feel like leaving and you need a hammer or a saw or something from Lowe's to finish a project.
Pick it up and then deliver it.
I pick it up and drop it off. It was called Postmates.
Okay.
It was the only place that would hire me with the background. But I worked for them for, I think, 4.5 years. I never made one fucking delivery. I would just put it on there that I was working. That way I could go out and actually drive and do things I had to do, go to the bank or whatever. If I ever got pulled over, I could show the officer, hey, look, I'm working. I'm on the clock. I'm waiting on an order. I never had to use it, but that was my story if I ever got pulled over. Because I just couldn't stay in the house all the time, man. It was driving me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're getting all this stuff ready, and then finally, like, COVID's starting to come up. The podcast is starting to grow a little bit. I'm going to New York a second time. They let me go. Third time I have a conversation with the lawyer, man, I said, look, this thing could be a reoccurring deal. Like, where are we at? We're closing in on 5 years. This is now 2023. And it's pretty much been nothing from 2018 to 2023. And he said, I got an idea, Wade. He said, if you're willing to do this, he said, it's a risk, it's a gamble, but I think it'll pay off. The first solicitor on my case, we call them solicitors down there, he moved. He left the solicitor's office. He was replaced by a woman. She was on there a couple months and then she left. We had a brand new solicitor. He said, I think your case is so strong, we're going to show it to the solicitor, and I think he'll toss it. He said, but if he don't, he knows everything that we got. He knows our whole game plan. He's like, so it's a risk, because we weren't going to go to trial. The first step that we would have done.
You had to show all your cards.
Yeah, we were going to have an immunity
You had to show all your cards.
Yep, and we would have laid it all on the table. And so I was like, man, I've been a gambler for a long time. I ain't stopping now. Let's do it. Let's roll. So we brought the investigator back down from New York. Remember, more money, still more money. He's got to come down. And he basically puts together a PowerPoint presentation, blowing holes in every reason why they charged me, right? Some of their reasons was, well, you said there was a struggle, but there was no signs of a struggle. He takes the first arriving officer's body cam footage, zooms in, you can see a knocked over shot glass on the floor, a knocked over glass on the counter. He says, well, you guys were in close contact, but you don't have any blood on you. There's no blood transfer. Well, all the shots were center mass. The guy was wearing 3 shirts. He had on a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and then like a hoodie over all of that. You're not going to get any blood transfer back on you from that. And he's like, well, he said that you tried life-saving measures, but there was no evidence of that. Well, during the 911 call, you can hear the lady say, get a towel and place it on his chest. And then when the officer comes in, you can see his shirt's pulled up and a towel's on his chest. And I was like, he said, well, I can tell you he didn't go get it. Wade had to put it there.
Exactly.
He's like, so yeah, he might not know CPR. He's not a medic, but he done what he was told to try to do life-saving measures. And so we're sitting in there. It's me, my lawyer, the forensics guy, the solicitor, his investigator. There's like 5 people in there. And so we get done showing him that, and it was pretty powerful. And they even showed videos. Another point of contention was everybody was like, well, if he's coming at you and you shoot him, he's going to fall forward. They played 5 minutes of video where people were literally looking forward, like a guy's holding his head down and gets shot. And when he collapsed, he fell backwards. So that just happened to be the way he fell. And all that was real compelling. And they said they were going to come to my house. So I leave and I get on back. And my investigator gets there first, and he said, they showed us what they had on you when you left, because I wasn't allowed to see it. And I said, well, what'd they have? He said, nothing. So what do you mean nothing? He said, they got nothing. He said, they just had the shit they took from you, like your computer and your gun and your phone and all that. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing, right? And he's like, yeah, they got nothing. He's like, I was expecting some kind of smoking gun. And so they get there, and now, mind you, I never moved that refrigerator. I kept it. I had a feeling that at some point that was going to be really crucial. So I'm literally walking the solicitor, the guy that's trying to put me in jail, or I don't want to say him. The officer was the one that charged me. This solicitor was really listening, and but he's in charge of this case, trying to give me life. I'm walking him through the kitchen. I'm like, all right, we were here. I was here. He was here. When I shot, boom. Bullets hit here, ricocheted over there. I never covered up where the police put their stickers on the wall. I left everything.
Everything there, so
just
they
the way it was.
So if they had to come back and do it again,
yep.
You're affording them the chance to come back against you and say, look, nothing's changed. This is the way it is from when it happened.
Yep. None of the stickers.
I'm not
on the
trying
wall.
to hide anything.
Yeah. People used to ask, why don't you take them stickers off? I'm like, bro, I might need them. I didn't want to change a thing. The glass that was knocked over on the counter, I went and got that solicitor and I put it in his hand. I said, you feel that. Put that in your hand. I said, you're not going to knock a glass that heavy over. This was like a Manhattan glass, a rocks glass. I said, you're not going to knock that over just barely bumping into it. And so you can tell that he took all this in. And so they leave. This was around August of 2023. They leave, and I'm still kind of checking in with my lawyer every now and then, and nothing's happening. August rolls around, September rolls around. I'm a Virgo. My birthday's on Labor Day. I said, man, it'd be a good present if they just dropped this shit. Nothing. Go into October. It was October the 26th or 27th. I'm at work. I get a call from my lawyer. Now, that's not unusual. I get calls from him all the time. Most of it was because you got an outstanding bill you got to pay.
Yeah, that too.
you got to pay this bill, tighten up the account. But he goes, Wade, how you doing? I said, man, I'm actually feeling a little sick. I said, I ain't feeling too good. He said, well, you're about to feel better. He said, brother, you're a free man. He said, this case has been dismissed. We're working on your expungement papers right now, and you can come pick up the remainder of your weapons in my office at your leisure. Because I couldn't have any weapons. I had to give them all to him. Of course. Part of my release. Yep. And Red, when I tell you, when he said that, man, I dropped to my knees, and I'll say it in front of everybody. I cried like a baby. It was so much of a weight lifted off of me. I was able to call my wife and call my kids and just tell them that they don't have to worry anymore. I'm not going away for something that I didn't even do to begin with. And obviously my mom was real relieved, as well as my dad. But that's a heavy burden to carry around for 5 years, not knowing if you could wind up in prison.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't even enjoy life events.
I imagine so.
Right? My daughter graduated right after this happened. Now, they did allow me to go see her graduate, but I couldn't do anything afterwards. I had to come right back home. As I'm watching her walk across that stage, as happy as I was, I didn't know if I'd be able to watch my son walk across that stage. Everything you do, every event, you wonder, is this the last one? Is this the last Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthday, whatever the case? And it puts things into perspective when you've been in the crosshairs like this unfairly. I was riding home from a Christmas one time, and you pass a prison in between my wife's house to my house, and I'm looking at the lights and the prison lights, and I was like, there's a lot of people in there that probably don't belong there. It's staggering the amount of people that are in jail that are innocent.
Well, you're absolutely right about that, but there are also people who haven't done something severe that they're put away for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they get raw deals.
Put away for a long time. I mean, just in California itself, 3 strikes you're out. That could be stealing a piece of pizza, and it's your 3rd strike. You're getting life.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting life. Life for a stolen piece of pizza. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that 3rd strike rule is a bunch of shit, man. They really need to go in and I think they got put in with Clinton, right? Clinton put that in when he was in office?
It was in when he was in office, yeah, because they had so much strife going on, they didn't know how to handle it, and they looked soft, so they made that law. They should really revisit that law.
Yeah, and it's just something that you don't really experience unless you've been put in that situation. And I remember right after I got out, I look at everything differently now, right? Before I went in, if I seen somebody got arrested on the news, I'd be like, well, I guess if he got arrested, he probably did something. Not anymore. When I got out of jail, right after I got bonded out, I remember I seen on TV where I guess a son had shot at his dad and then took off running. And so everybody's saying, well, the son's this, and the son must be a horrible person. I'm just like, you don't know. Why did he do that? Was the dad beating on him? Was the dad beating on the mom? Was he doing something to the sister? Was he beating on the son? You don't know. It could have been the son, yeah. The son could have been a little shit and shot his dad. Who knows? But you don't know. You're assuming because they're looking for him. And that's what I've learned now, is to never assume anything. Get the facts. Get all the facts. And that's what I think the problem with society today, and as great as a tool as social media is, I think people will convict you as soon as they hear something off, things that aren't facts, before they actually take the time to hear the whole truth.
Because they're preconditioned.
Yeah.
They're preconditioned. Mm-hmm. Because the media is saying it has to be true. Because a prosecutor is saying it has to be true. Because a police officer is saying it has to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of instances after they've gone, like yourself, through the investigations and everything else, that they're really innocent.
Yep. And I was very surprised they didn't come to me and offer. My lawyer said, I think they're going to offer you a plea deal. He said, I think they're going to come to you and offer you a pled down sentence, maybe involuntary manslaughter or something like that, and probably say time served, because you've been on house arrest for almost 5 years. They're probably going to say you plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter or maybe unlawful use of a firearm, something like that, and then say time served.
Thank God you didn't have to do that.
Exactly.
Because you would have had a criminal record.
Exactly, and that's what he asked me. He said, now, keep in mind, he said, you're pleading guilty. He's like, you don't have to worry about prison, but that's on your record. And I'm like, I'm not pleading to anything that I didn't do. I was like, I told him, I said, it's 3 meals or no plea deals, I I mean, 3 meals over plea deals any day of the week. I'm not going to say that I done that in my kitchen with any sort of malice or anything like that.
Because
that's not how it happened.
all the government cares about is getting a conviction.
100%. And I think they knew that
At any
that lawyer,
cost.
you're not taking
At
pleas.
sometimes at any cost.
At any cost. My eyes have been opened
That's
up
why
so much.
you see these cases today where you know, these mob guys. I killed 25 bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they ratted on the guys that they were with in their crew. Those guys are doing multiple years in prison, and this guy is walking the street now after whacking 25 people. The government says, whatever it costs to get a conviction.
Sammy the Bull's a prime example. What, he killed 19 people? They could have cared less about the 19 people that he killed because they wanted John Gotti. They wanted to be able to say they got John Gotti.
And he killed a young kid too, right?
Alan Kaiser. Yeah,
Alan, 15 years old, right?
I think he was 15. Yep.
15 years old.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about that.
Oh, he doesn't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yet people praise him. But yet people want to hear him. And that I don't get. That I don't get. You want to listen to a rat? Because I'm going to tell you right now, he is not telling you the full truth. Mm-hmm. They don't. They'll lie to save the ass in any way they can. But yet people, well, he was in the mob, and you know he did kill people, and he's a real tough guy. No, he's not a tough guy. A tough guy accepts his responsibility without putting on anybody else's shoulders, and takes his punishment. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's a tough guy.
Yep. To owning up to what you did, and you know, if it would come
and
to
there's
the
so
point,
many of them out there.
Yeah, oh, there's a lot.
There's so many of them out there. It's pathetic. It's gross. And I know that you've had a couple guys on, and I know that I chimed in and you said, see, Red, I ask them the hard questions. And you have, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's what I think. The one thing that I'll say is this genre that's gotten built up by people, you know, Vlad is very good. He's done a lot of the stuff. You know, Mark from Soft White's had a bunch of them on. There's no coincidence that one of the greatest movies, people say that one of the greatest movies is The Godfather. I personally like Goodfellas over The Godfather, but The Godfather is a great movie. And Sopranos is one of the best TV shows of all time. There's no coincidence that they both revolve around the same genre, right? So people, I think, love any stories that are related to that genre. And I don't know if they really care if all of it is 100% factual. They are just infatuated with the lifestyle and the knowledge and of anybody that has anything to do with that life. And, you know, there's a few of them out there that'll claim that they haven't ratted, and they have.
Oh, listen, there's more than you can imagine. There's so many guys that you wouldn't even realize, or I realize, how many of them wrote what they call a proffer.
Yeah.
And they wrote that proffer. That way, basically, is what they're doing is they're ratting, but they're not going to show their face.
Yeah.
They don't have to show their face because they admitted and said these things in that paperwork that's going to be only for the law enforcement and prosecutors to use. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to show their face. That was the deal they make. Mm-hmm. That's why they call it the proffer. Some guys who are made guys, you know, in the mafia, last thing they could say when they go in and say, hey, you know, I am a member of the mafia, I am a member of La Costa Nostra, right? Mm-hmm. But there were some of them that wrote that proffer behind the scene to get the deal and say, I am a member of La Costa Nostra. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know that because they never show it. Mm-hmm. They never show it. They just put that file away like the government loves to do, document everything, put that file away, and keep it there. But I'm going to tell you what, if those people aren't found out about and they go back to activity, they use that proffer and say, hey, don't forget what you wrote. You don't want anybody finding that out. Mm-hmm. They hold that over their head. Yep. So you're absolutely correct. You're correct. And that's why I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. And it's, you know, really appreciate you giving me the platform to come on there, because I've heard your story and it's quite compelling, and you don't get a chance to talk to many people that have, owned up to what they did, go in, do the time, and come out and still be a stand-up guy about the thing. So I appreciate you bringing me on.
Well, I appreciate it.
Giving me this platform.
There's not many people who walk the walk.
There's not, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, actually, let me correct myself. There are more people who walk the walk. They just haven't expressed themselves.
Correct.
They just haven't expressed themselves. And I'm always looking for those people that have walked the walk, that held their water, that were men, that were strong women. Those are the people that I respect, because they accept their responsibility without putting it on anyone else's shoulders. These rats out there today, these spewing, lying rats, I got nothing for them. I don't even want to listen to them.
And again, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, allow me to come on your show, and hopefully one day you can come on and do my show. 100%.
It'd be an honor.
Yeah, and
I appreciate it. And you know what? I'm so happy that life it worked out for you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you and your family.
And we're still.
And I commend your family for sticking by you. I commend your family for that.
100%, and I couldn't have done it had they not. I think support system and obviously my faith. I'm a man of faith, and all those things played a huge role in that. And had I not had a family that stuck by me, a family unit, it would have made it so much harder. And who knows if I'd have been able to do it. But I get asked oftentimes, are you and your wife still together? We are. We're still together. We're going strong. We're over 20 years together now. And while we don't have the most common story like most people that have been together 20 years, it might be a little unorthodox, but we can sit down and we can tell a couple that might be arguing and fighting over piddly and peddly shit and tell them, look, you don't know what real stresses and struggles are. And we've done that to people, because they've said, well, how did you guys survive everything you've been through? And we've been able to mentor them and talk to them and tell them, it's not easy. Anything worth having, don't come easy. You got to fight for it. And marriage is no different from that. It's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows, but when it's meant to be and when it's real, you'll hold on to that. And I've been fortunately been able to do that.
And when you love each other.
Absolutely, 100%. And my kids, they're doing great. My daughter's she was living in Seattle, doing some work over there with people that were getting out of prisons, getting reacclimated to society. She's coming back actually in a month to continue her nursing degree, and she's going to go into that field. My son's in high school now. He's playing football. Just finished up his junior season of varsity. Last night was actually his last game in the regular season.
How beautiful is that?
It's great, man. I couldn't imagine being behind walls for something that I didn't do and missing all this.
The good Lord was looking out for you and 100%. Your family.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you one thing before we close.
Absolutely.
Through all the adversity that you've been through, what's the best advice that you could give people in life?
Great question. So the best advice that I can give people in life, whether you've been through a situation close to mine, similar to mine, or whatever, is just be true to yourself. Stand on the right morals, the right principles, the right values. I knew I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't going to admit to doing anything wrong. And I had faith that me being honest, truthful, and standing my ground, that it would work out. Now, did I go through 5 years of hell? Absolutely. Did I go through, I had hair when all this stuff started, if that tells you anything. But I heard a great quote, and it's the best way to summarize your answer. Everybody in life falls in water, but you only drown if you stay there. Be true to yourself, swim up when you fall in the water, and you'll be fine.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
Thank you, buddy,
for coming on.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's been an honor. Great story. Stand-up guy. You took your lumps and bumps, you fought to the end, and you didn't give up. You got knocked on the ground, and you got back right up. Right back up you got.
Integrity.
Integrity is everything in life.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Wade.
Thank you.